Hi book friends, this is Kat. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video, you see that it is time for my September wrap-up. And September was a pretty good month in terms of books that I have read. I've read a total of 10 books. And not all of them were on my TBR, but I did participate in a readathon for September. I did a Seasonathon, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, but this includes that. Let me go ahead and get started with the books that I have read for September. I'm gonna let you know the different ratings that I did have. So I had 1 DNF, 1 1-star, 1 3-star, 4 4-stars, 2 4.5 stars, and 1 5-star. So a pretty broad spectrum, but I'm glad that I had a lot of higher ratings than lower ratings. So let's go ahead and talk about our first book, and that is going to be the DNF, and I had to read The Call of the Wild by Jack London, and this is a bind up with White Fang. So this was actually part of Seasonathon. I had to read a book, an American classic or an American banned book, and so I did pick this one. So this one, Call of the Wild, is you are reading through the perspective of a dog, and the dog, he gets kidnapped and he gets shipped to Canada, and basically he is going to be trained to be like a sled dog. The back says that this dog navigates the world of wild animals and the world of humans, finding violence and loyalty in both. Let me tell you, the violence caught me off guard with this book. The reason I DNF'd this book was due to that. This was in like my library's children's section, and so for me, I thought it was a little too much for, a child to read personally. But yes, there was just this dog talking about the violence that these humans were doing on these dogs to try to break them, like break their spirit, and it was really sad to read about. And then you had Buck, that's the dog's name, when he reaches Canada, basically the sled dogs, how violent they were to these new animals. And yeah, if you are an animal lover, you do not want to read about animal dying in horrific ways. I would not suggest this book. So that one was a flop for me. Okay, my 1-star read is from my Read Around the World series that I'm doing, and that is The Elephant's Journey, and by Jose Saramago. And I had vlogged this and talked a little bit more about it, but essentially an elephant that is given as a gift, as a wedding present, and the journey of that elephant. And it was just not my type of humor, and so I kind of did a vlog, like I said, so you can go ahead and look at that vlog if you're interested to know more about my thoughts. My next one was a 3-star read, and for that was another children's kind of classic book. This is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne's. This was also part of my book choice for read a translated book from Seasonathon. And this book follows Phineas Fogg, and he makes a bet to travel the world in 80 days. I loved the movie, the one starring Jackie Chan in it, and this book was pretty different from the movie. I mean, still there's the bet that was said, and that inspector guy who like follows Phineas around the world, and so that part of it was the same as the movie, but it was different in like some of the areas that they did stop at and like some of the challenges that they did face. And I will say I do enjoy the movie a lot more than this. And so it was just a good read. It was playing off a little of nostalgia for me from the movie, but I did enjoy it. I thought there were some funny moments in it. I did put that content warning though, again, because it was in the children's section. There is use of opium. One of the characters falls underneath the influence of it, but you can skip through that section for those who are thinking about reading it to their kids or something. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about the book. All right, the next set of stars, we are in the 4-star range, and the first one I'm going to talk about is The Rent Collector by Cameron Wright, I believe. And this one was a really great find for me. This was set in Cambodia and follows the lives of 2 women. One who's the rent collector to this garbage dump town, and the other one is a woman who lives in that area, but she wants a better life for her sick son. And it's just, I think it was a very heartwarming book. I enjoyed it, and there's a whole vlog of that one as well. Another book that I did read, and it's part of the same vlog with that one, I believe, but it is Biblio Burro, A History of Colombia, and this is the Spanish book version, and I did enjoy it. It's also vlogged about, and I did read it in Spanish. And yeah, it's a good history about Colombia, about this man who gets on his donkey and he distributes all the books that he has owned to other remote villages, kind of spreading the love of reading. The next 4-star read was also part of my vlogging around the world series, and that's Ada's Violin. And this one is set in Paraguay, and there is this man who teaches children to play instruments, but they don't have instruments. They actually recycle from the garbage dump all these items and create their own instruments, and they have actually performed at places. So it is inspired by a true story. So I loved it, like the artwork. 4 stars, great. Okay, my next 4-star read is A Dance in Dagle by Jennifer Dagle, and I listened to this on audio. Absolutely loved it. I connected with the woman. She's a teacher, so some of the thoughts that she's had or things that she's kind of going through with like becoming a new teacher and wanting to do her best and all of that, I can find relatable. This one is also rated as a 3 for Christian fiction, like faith fiction, because the faith is so big in this book and like how she relies on God. There is a story about like her mother having to leave this small town in Ireland, and when she goes there she's unraveling like these rumors, and so you have to figure out like what's true and what's not. The romance was very sweet. I absolutely loved it. And if you are looking for a love triangle for Reese's Readathon, I would suggest this book because there is a small one. But yes, very atmospheric. I would recommend the audiobook. All right, my 4.5-star reads. I'm going to begin with Miracle at Higher Grounds Cafe, and this is by Max Lucado. This is also with a Christian fiction rating of a 3 because it is so prevalent in this book. I would say this book is sort of equivalent to the movie It's a Wonderful Life, like the angel and like he kind of comes down to earth and all of that, like the helper, like there is something like that within the book, but I loved it. It was different, like that. I kind of got the vibes of It's a Wonderful Life with this, but I loved it. I thought there were some parts that were funny. You have this woman who is basically going through a separation, and she leaves her NFL football star husband. They're just separated at the beginning of the book, and she is running this cafe that her mother left to her, and she wants to like basically start a new life. And there is a point in the book where she has this internet that's installed and everything, and basically this certain type of web browser pops up, and you can ask God anything you want on it, just one question and that's it. And so it becomes a very popular cafe, and the story kind of goes from there. And I just thought it was very sweet, cute, wholesome, heavy topics, but there were some parts that really almost got me misty-eyed, and yeah, I loved it. I was very surprised because this was one of those books that I wasn't really sure if I was going to like it. I mean, I do like Max Lucado's writing, but I wasn't sure how I would feel with reading a fiction book that he wrote. But I thought it was excellent, and I would highly recommend this book. So the next 4.5-star read will have to go to The Ringmaster's Wife by Christy Cambron. Christy Cambron is starting to become a favorite historical fiction writer for me. The reason why it got 4.5 stars is I want to read these books pretty fast paced, just like a quick kind of read through, but I find that for me, I have to slow down to really read and enjoy her writing. Not saying her writing is like hard to understand or anything, but for some reason, for me, I have to like pace myself with it. But this follows two women. One is the ringmaster's wife, which is Mabel Ringling, and the other one is Rosamond, and she's a lady from England, and how the circus basically impacts their life. I said this was about 2.5 star for Christian fiction rating because there are like talks about faith, and sometimes it's pretty prevalent, and then sometimes with another timeline it doesn't seem like it is, but it is. So to me, I'm just like, not a full 3, but I mean, you could argue it's a full 3, that's fine. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. There are some hard-hitting moments. There is like talk about grief. If you like the circus, if you like, historical fiction, I would recommend this book. It does just talk a lot about the inner workings of the circus, and not so much of like the performances themselves, but basically like the training and the like behind the scenes sort of thing. And so that always fascinated me. I loved going to see the Ringling Brothers circus when they would come to town. That's a nice childhood memory that I have had. I even had like this DVD or VHS, I forget, I think it was DVD when DVDs first came out, but there was like movie, so to speak, of like behind the scenes of the acts, and you got to see the documentary of some of the performers and how they would train like the animals, or just how they would do certain acts. And anyway, this just brought me back to my childhood, and so yeah, I enjoyed this book. Okay, my 5-star read, and this was a big surprise for me because I rated a classic a 5-star, and that is Agnes Gray by Anne Bronte. I loved this, guys. This small book packed a punch, and it was easy for me to understand. And I think Anne from In Search of Wonder really loved this book too. I think she rated it 5 stars, but I'm not entirely sure, but I know she loved it. But this book was fun for me to read, especially in the morning. Like, I loved reading this in the morning with my cup of coffee. But this follows Agnes, who becomes a governess, and it's just her time teaching and being a governess and the hardships of it. And again, as a teacher, I could identify with some of the hardships that she has had with the sets of family that she becomes a governess for. And you know, there were some horrible moments. One in particular with the birds. That's all I'm gonna say. If you've read it, that one shocked me when I read that. But other than that, you know, it was fine. But yeah, loved it. There's not really a romance per se, but it's like a tiny one. But loved that too. Yeah, so that is my wrap up. And this was my husband's book. So this, I mentioned this in my TBR video. He finished A Chain of Thunder by Jeff Shara, and this is actually a novel set during the Civil War. Pretty thick, pretty big, but he loved it as well. He really likes Jeff Shara, the author, and so if you like historical fiction, but kind of more so like wanting to read the like personal diaries or like more in depth about certain people, Jeff Shara is really good with that. He does a lot of his research and he writes from the perspective of these historical figures, but he uses like some of their diaries, some of the letters, correspondence, and it doesn't read like a textbook. From what my husband said, he said that it reads as if like it's like them writing it, you know, and he enjoys it. Some of the books, I think it's like the World War II books though, can get very graphic in certain things. I think he had to put down one just because for him it was super heavy and it was like the war in the Pacific. But anyway, that was my wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you read any of these books, if you agree, disagree with some of these ratings that I've had, if there are some books you would like to recommend because of where I kind of rated certain books, like Agnes Gray. Would have never thought I would have given that a 5. But if there are other works similar to that, let me know. I would love to check it out. And that could be for any of the books that I have. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.